You don't get to lose gracefully, not in this division. Not when every man you face is built like a building and hits like a freight train. In other weight classes you can make mistakes. You can recover. You can lose a round and come back. But here? One mistake and you're unconscious on national television. Laid out like laundry, jaw slack, eyes wide. People don't talk about your footwork or your timing. They talk about the way your legs folded, the way your mouthpiece popped out. They loop it. They meme it. You become a GIF. A cautionary tale. You remember the first time you got hit like that. Not in the gym. Not in regional shows. In the UFC. Under those lights. You thought you were ready. You thought you could take it. And then, boom. Not even a clean punch. Just a glancing right that turned your brain off like a switch. You woke up blinking at the ceiling, trying to remember what state you were in. The ref waving his arms. Your coach crouched beside you, doing his best not to look disappointed. You don't remember walking out of the cage. Just the shame. The silence of it. You tell yourself it's part of the game. Everyone gets clipped. Everyone eats one eventually. But you know it's not the same here. Not for heavyweights. You're not just getting beat. You're getting flattened. And the internet doesn't forgive. They don't see the years you put in. The surgeries. The meals weighed to the gram. The blood you left in those mats. They just see the replay. You face down on the canvas, frozen like a mannequin. You try not to read the comments. But you do. You always do. Washed. Dude's chin is gone. Time to retire, Gramps. It doesn't matter that you were on a 3-fight win streak. It doesn't matter that you fought hurt. That you took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. That your last paycheck didn't even cover your training camp. All that matters is that one clip, one moment of failure. And that's the thing. This division doesn't forgive. The power's a curse. You all have it. Even the sloppy ones. Even the guys who gas after one round. It doesn't matter if they're slow, if they're technical, if they've ever thrown a combo in their life. If their hand touches your chin and you're off balance by half an inch, it's over. The lights go out. The room spins. And you're waking up to a doctor flashing a pen light in your eyes. You start fighting differently. Cautious. Paranoid. You don't throw combos like you used to. You flinch more. Your jab turns tentative. You start checking your phone more before fights. Who's saying what? Which blogs are picking you to win? Which fans think you're going to sleep again? You used to walk into the cage like it was your throne. Now you walk in trying not to look scared. And you are scared. You don't admit it out loud. Not to your coach. Not to your family. But deep down, you know. That fear, it's always there now. You feel it in your walkouts. You feel it in the stare downs. That little tremor in your chest that says, tonight might be the night. Again. And you pray it isn't. You're not just fighting the other guy anymore. You're fighting the expectations, the whispers, the past. You're fighting the slow-motion replays that won't die. You walk into media day and they smile at you, ask about your training camp, but you can see the real question in their eyes. Are you done? Is this the last time? They ask about adjustments, about how you've grown, but what they really want is another highlight. They don't care about your technique. They want blood. They want chaos. They want to see a big man fall. And if it's you, all the better. You're the name. The scalp. The clickbait. You never used to think about the paycheck. You fought because it meant something. You were the kid who lifted weights in the garage, shadowboxed in the mirror, dreamed about title belts and Bruce Buffer shouting your name. Now you think about money. You think about whether this fight will pay off your last MRI. Whether you can afford to fly your wife out for the next card. You think about how long your body can do this. Your hip locks when you sit too long. Your right shoulder clicks every time you warm up. Your knuckles don't straighten anymore. You're 35 but your body feels 50. You know you're not the future. The UFC doesn't build around guys like you anymore. They want contenders with clean records, social media reach, and perfect teeth. You've got scar tissue and a crooked nose. You don't post TikToks. You don't sell supplements. You just show up and fight. But in this game, that's not enough. You're not a star. You're a test. They feed you to the new kid. The one with the six-pack and the knockout reel. And when he clips you, you're not just a loss on your record. You're a stepping stone. A passing torch. A viral moment. You go back to the locker room after that loss and you don't even cry. You just sit there with your gloves still on, elbows on your knees, head down, trying to breathe. The sting isn't just physical. It's identity. This was supposed to be your return. Your proof. But now you're just a cautionary tale. Another veteran who hung on too long. The texts you get after are polite. Still proud of you. Chin up, bro. No one says what they're really thinking. That it might be over. That you might not get another call. And that's the real fear, isn't it? Not the knockout. Not the hospital visits. Not the ice pack pressed to your jaw while you blink at the fluorescent lights. The fear is silence. That your phone won't ring. That the UFC will quietly remove you from the roster page. No tweet. No farewell. Just gone. That's how it ends for most guys. Not with a roar, but with paperwork. With an unsigned contract and a shrug. You tell yourself it's fine. You've done what most never will. You fought under the lights. You stood across from killers. You made that walk. But it eats at you. That sense of unfinished business. That ache to prove you weren't just another heavyweight with a puncher's chance. You still believe there's more in you. But you're the only one who does. Your coaches have started using softer words. Recovery. Rebuild. Reassess. You hear what they mean. You hear the end. But the craziest part, the part you hate to admit, is that you'd still do it again. Even now. Even after the knockouts, the memes, the missed birthdays, the broken bones. You'd tape up your wrist. You'd stretch out that ruined shoulder. You'd walk into the cage one more time just to feel it. The roar. The fear. The quiet. Because somewhere in all that noise there's a moment, just one, that belongs only to you. The second before the fight starts. When the cage door shuts. When the world fades. When it's just you, the other guy, and the truth. You tell yourself every camp is the one. You say it out loud like a mantra. This time I'm clean. This time I'm healthy. This time I'm locked in. You believe it when you're running sprints at 6 a.m., when your lungs are screaming and your sweat burns the cuts on your brow. You believe it when you're sparring, when you feel that old rhythm coming back for just a moment, the slip, the counter, the snap. You believe it when the pads pop and your coach smiles and says, "You're back." But then the fight comes and your legs feel slow. You blink too long. You hesitate for half a second too many. And against these monsters, half a second is fatal. You used to have rituals. Gloves you didn't wash. Walkout songs you couldn't change. You used to picture the win before every fight. Visualize your hand raised, the crowd roaring, the commentators calling your name with respect. Now you visualize not getting embarrassed. Not getting knocked out. You try not to think about the what-ifs, but they find you in the quiet. In the locker room. In the hotel bed. In the mirror. You know the whispers. They follow you like shadows. His chin's gone. He's too slow now. He doesn't want it like he used to. They say it on podcasts. In fight previews. Online threads where your name is reduced to stats and speculation. You want to scream that they don't know what you've survived. The torn ligaments. The concussions. The sleepless nights after a bad loss where you stared at the ceiling until dawn wondering if it was all a mistake. They don't know about the pills you stopped taking just so you could feel like yourself again. Or the nights you drove to the gym just to sit in the parking lot because walking through the door felt too heavy. And yet you show up. You always show up. Because it's who you are. Because somewhere deep inside you still believe there's one more left. One more clean shot. One more fight that reminds everyone what you were made of. You're chasing ghosts now, versions of yourself that lived in old footage and better years. But it doesn't stop you. You chase anyway. There are moments when you forget. When you step into the cage and everything clicks again. When your opponent misses and you make him pay. When your corner shouts and you move just right. When the crowd roars and you feel it in your bones. The reason you started. The reason you stayed. It's fleeting. It always is. But for those few minutes you're not broken. You're not washed. You're not fading. You're a fighter. So, always. But the high never lasts. You get back to the hotel and the pain catches up. The bruises bloom. The joints swell. You ice your knees in silence while your phone buzzes with texts that say, "Great fight, bro," even if you lost. You know the routine. You know what tomorrow brings. Press obligations if you win. A long flight home and a meeting with your manager if you lose. They'll talk about options. Lower-ranked guys. Maybe a move to another promotion. Maybe retirement. No one says it directly, but it's there, lingering in their voices like a question you're too tired to answer. You scroll through your feed and see the next wave coming. Younger. Hungrier. Undefeated. They're doing interviews about their dreams. You used to sound like that. You want to tell them how fast it all changes. How one wrong shot can send everything spinning. But you don't. Because maybe they're the exception. Maybe they'll make it. Or maybe they'll end up like you, 37, sore, stubborn, and still chasing the roar. The end doesn't feel like an ending. There's no curtain call, no press conference with tears and applause. It just stops. You take one more fight. A short notice card in a half-empty arena somewhere in the Midwest. You lose by decision. It wasn't a war. It wasn't a massacre. Just 3 rounds of being a half step behind. You leave the cage knowing it's over, not because someone told you but because you finally believe it. For the first time, the idea of doing it all again doesn't light a fire. It just makes you tired. You go home. You sit on your porch and watch your dog bark at the wind. You stretch your back slowly like an old man. You feel every crack, every fight, every training camp, every shot you ate to prove something to someone who isn't around anymore. You remember being 22 thinking you were invincible. You remember the first knockout, the first big win, the first time you saw your name trending on Twitter. And then, the fall, the silence, the forgetting. You coach now. You run drills with kids who still believe. You hold tags for fighters who call you OG and ask you what it was like back in the day. You laugh. You tell stories. You give advice you wish someone had given you. Take care of your hands. Keep your circle small. Don't chase fame, chase growth. You try not to let the bitterness in. Most days you succeed. But sometimes when the gym is quiet and the sun's gone down, you shadow box in the mirror. Just a few movements. Muscle memory. Ghost rhythm. You fake the overhand right that used to win fights. You hear the crowd in your head. You feel the cage under your feet. You let yourself be that fighter again just for a minute. Then you turn off the light and head home. Because here's the truth. Being a UFC heavyweight isn't just about being big. It's about carrying everything, expectation, pain, history, fear, on a frame that was never built to last. You're not just a fighter. You're a sacrifice. A body traded for pay-per-view buys and ticket sales. You're the one they call when they need blood, when they need noise, when they need someone to fall so the next guy can rise. And the worst part? You loved it. Every broken bone, every split lip, every deafening walk to the cage. You loved it because for a moment you mattered. For a moment your pain had a purpose. Your name meant something. And even now, when the crowd is gone and the gloves are boxed up in the garage, you still feel it. In your joints, in your dreams, in the silence after you tell another fighter, "Good job, kid." That's why it sucks to be a UFC heavyweight. Because you give everything and in the end you leave with less than you came in with. But you do it again. Because somewhere deep inside, in the roar, in the ring, in the moment just before the first punch lands, you felt alive. And that feeling never really goes away. No matter how much it costs.